Greek fire. Back in the year 672, the Byzantine Empire, they started using this new invention. And they started using it in their naval fleets. A lot of ships back then, they used to set each other on fire all the time. They used to shoot these fireballs out of fire cannons, whatever the case is. See, this is the thing about Greek fire that made it so different. I'm over here on one of these big boy Byzantine boats, and you my op, I'm shooting at you with the fireball cannon and I miss. So you thinking you all evasive and shit until things start getting a little hot, and you look over to your left and you see that the fire is burning on top of the water. Yes, I said it. Greek fire could burn on top of water. Bro, think about how crazy this is. Like, imagine you seen a swimming pool on fire. And when this fire got to these ships, or when they got a direct hit on these ships, supposedly they was trying to put it out with water and it made it ignite even more. Imagine buddy you cut off of traffic on your way home. He happened to be a criminal, a real arsonist. He follow you home, lights your house on fire. You get out, you call fire department. They pull up, spray house with water, and then the fire start raging uncontrollably. Look, bro, I don't know how they did this back then, and nobody knows because when that empire fell, they took the secret with them. It was a real top secret classified recipe, and it never ended up getting out. On this tier list, this is going at A. We starting off strong. Man, I can't believe what the world would be like if we had people running around with flamethrowers that couldn't be put out with water. Like, bro, how? Anti-Catheria mechanism. I wasn't capping on the thumbnail and it wasn't clickbait. See, back in the early 1900s, there was these divers off the coast of the Greek island, Anti-Catheria. What they ended up finding was an ancient shipwreck, and they found old stuff on here. So check it out. They find this box, right? And it's weird, it's old, it has like a wheel, and it was real strange looking. And nobody knew what it was until the 1970s, and they started x-raying this box. What they found by far was the world's oldest known computer. Now, it is one distinction. It's an analog computer, which means it computes off all physical characteristics. No, it didn't have a SIM card. No, it didn't have any battery or like a digital makeup of it. But that does not make it any less impressive. See, what you could do with the Anti-Catheria mechanism was you could track planetary objects. You could track when the next solar eclipse or the next lunar eclipse would be. If your birthday in 6 months, you could input information in this thing and see exactly where the sun and the moon and even planets will be at this time. I don't know if I mentioned that this thing is over 2,000 years old. Now here's the kicker if you wasn't impressed already. We wouldn't see another thing like this in history for another 1,000 years. Like, brother, imagine I came up to you and I was like, I just made this invention. I just built this thing that we ain't gonna see nothing else like until 3025. You would look at me like I was crazy, but I'm not lying. We really ain't gonna see nothing like this till 3025. And then imagine we get on a plane, go and take it off to some science lab, and then the plane crash and they don't find it for another 2,000 years. That's the story of the Anti-Catheria mechanism. And that get it on S tier for me, bro. Like a computer that was built 1,000 years before we know computers to exist. Who and how the hell did they make this? The Keystone Spheres. All right, so out in Costa Rica, they ended up finding these stone spheres in the ground, hundreds of them. And these spheres range from a few inches in diameter all the way till 7 feet across, weighing up to 15 tons. Now, the funny part about these things, they're perfectly round. These people out here, for whatever reason, were making 15-ton stone spheres, and somehow we're getting them perfectly round. And apparently I'm supposed to believe that they were making it with hand tools and like sandpapering it down. Cap, bro. They was out there with some technology that we ain't know about. This one cool and all, but we don't really know what these was used for. I'm gonna put it in C tier. It would be crazy to find these things in the ground, but it's kind of mid on a list like this with some of these things we talking about. So I feel like C tier is good for it right now. Darren Kuyu. So this Turkish man back in the 60s, he owned livestock. He had chickens, all types of stuff. Then over a little bit of time, these chickens started going missing and he didn't know where they was going. He do some investigating. He ended up going down to the basement and finding a hole in the wall. He opened up the hole so he could go through it. He ends up finding this tunnel. Now he goes down this tunnel a little bit more and then he finds a network of tunnels. Turns out it's a whole underground city underneath his house. that's 3,000 years old. I don't know what I would do if I stumbled across this like he did, but I know one thing, I'm scared as hell. I'm not trying to go down there and investigate. I'll let that be up to y'all if y'all want to go down there. Turns out this 3,000-year-old underground city was called Derinkuyu, and it stretched 300 feet below the ground. That's over a 20-story building deep into the earth. And this ain't just no little Paris catacomb, little tunnels in there, and we're just living bad. They had air ventilation, fresh water coming in there. They had hundreds of homes in there. They had a school, church. They had factories for making wine and olive oil. They had common areas that could fit a lot of people. And obviously they could stay down here for a long time if they needed to. Now, the first question I have about this is how. Even today, it would take some time, a lot of skilled, construction workers and laborers. People want big, heavy, big boy equipment. But back then, I don't even know what technology we think that they had, even if they had a little bit of shovels, little hand tools. That wouldn't explain how this was made 3,000 years ago. Now, the second question I have is, why? Because apparently they had a city on top of the ground. Then they had the underground city underneath. Well, I actually have an answer for this one. I'll tell you why. See, the genius part about these people was the underground city had one entry point, and it was only big enough to fit one person at a time. So all these people had to go down in here single file line. Reason they did this is when armies come to invade and they want to take over the town and get rid of everybody, they could just slip to this underground city one by one, and that army has no numerical advantage against them. If only one person could come in at a time, you can't beat us with numbers. Boy, I'd be standing on the other side, had that little window, you slide on a door and just be poking them with a stick, shoot arrows through it. I don't care. There ain't no strength in numbers against us, boy. We in here, try to come get us. And I'm willing to put money. These invaders that came through got bored, got hungry, needed to move on, and they left. Whoever thought of this idea, I hope they got paid handsomely, because that is a architectural engineering genius. Derinkuyu is going in the B tier. I would really like to visit this place, but I really want to go back in time and really see how they was building this and how long it took them. Man, they really did their big one with this one. B tier for them. Ancient Rome, flexible glass. Quick story time for y'all. So it was this ancient Roman glassmaker back in the rule of Emperor Tiberius. Now this guy was the Michael Jordan of glassmaking. I'm talking about he had that real fire shit over there. Now one day he ends up getting in the flow state. He makes this new type of glass. So he works his connections and he ends up getting a meeting with Emperor Tiberius. So he's over here in the Emperor's dining hall and he hands the Emperor this glass bowl. Emperor looking like, cool design and everything. We got plenty of fine china in here. Get this out of my face. So Glass Jordan ended up taking the bowl back. He like, nah, Imp, check this out. Boom! He slammed this bowl on the ground hard as he can. The glass does not break. It doesn't crack, it doesn't chip, it don't do none of that. All it gets was this dent in it. Glass Jordan picks the bowl back up, pops the dent, and now the bowl is back into its original shape. Emperor Tiberius and everybody in that room is like, yo, lost their mind. So Glass Jordan standing there and he gotta be thinking, bro, I'm about to get a max contract. Bro, I'm about to get paid so well. I made it. He couldn't be more wrong. Emperor Tiberius ends up having his man's head chopped off on the spot. See, in his mind, Tiberius is thinking, bro, this glass is going to end up replacing the value of gold. And the Roman Empire is going to end up losing its wealth. Dumb part to me about this is, bro, if you think that this is going to be as valuable or more valuable than gold, you have the supplier. You have the only supplier of this. You got Glass Jordan. Let's just move on. Tier ranking, C tier. It is impressive, but I'm gonna put it in C tier just because, it's glass, and I don't really know what Buddy could have did with it, because unfortunately his career was ended by injury right after he brought this bowl to Emperor Tiberius. The Egyptian pyramids of Giza. We all know about these pyramids, right? Old as hell. We have no idea how they built them. It's heavily debated online. Now I'm gonna let you in on a little secret right here on Law and Order. I know how the pyramids were built. I swear, bro. I swear. I'm gonna tell you how. I'm gonna tell you how right now. They simply had technology back then that were far advanced than we give that time credit for. We always tend to think that we're in modern times and this is the most advanced we ever been. Industrial revolution blew up and now we got the whole thing. We got the whole pie. We the most advanced we've ever been. Bro, all that shit is cap. It's cap. They obviously had things back then that got lost to time. That's why there's so much discourse and so much debate over this. It's debate over it so much that conspiracy junkies come hop out the woodworks and say, oh yeah, ancient aliens, these spiritual beings helped them build the pyramid. That's so toxic. I really wish y'all would stop doing all that. Listen, this is going in the S tier. You already know what it is. And I better not see nobody in the comments talking about giants built them. Baghdad battery. So this is one that seems like it shouldn't exist, but there's a lot of controversy around it. Baghdad battery was found in like the 1930s, I believe, out in the Middle East. Now, there were 4 clay jars, and in one of these jars, it had an iron rod, copper tool, and some electrolyte residue around it. So archaeologists back then took it and started running with the narrative that, bro, this is a battery. They had ancient batteries back then. Man, they was powering something up. This is crazy. We found it. We found it. Listen, I don't really want to get into this one too much because I thought it was cool at first until I really looked into it. But I'm gonna drop a link in the video down for somebody that's gonna really get into the weeds and explain all of the controversy behind it. I'm not buying that this is a real battery. Maybe it shouldn't exist, but we need something to go in this bottom tier. I'm putting it all the way down in D tier. Pompeii surgical tools. So there was this city, Pompeii, and in the year 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius blew its top and then rained down so much ash on this city that everybody got frozen into place. Whatever they were doing at the time, so much soot and ash rained down so heavily, blanketed the city, that everybody got locked into one spot at the same time doing whatever they were doing. That also means everything people own in the city of Pompeii was also frozen into place. There's even some things I've seen where they were saying that food was still preserved. Dog, I'm not eating none from 79 AD. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all talking about this bread is still preserved and we can still eat it. Sometimes people really disgust me low key. But there's one thing I want to talk about that was frozen in place in this city that they found. Their surgical tools. Now, historians are saying that these tools are way too advanced for their time. They're looking at the sophistication of them, the detail, the craftsmanship, and they're like, how did Pompeii have this? Remember what I said about us thinking that we know everything about the past and that we're the most advanced. Nothing was special about Pompeii. It was a random city that happened to get shit on by a huge volcano. Now, if in this random city that happened to be frozen in time had these advanced surgical tools, these tools were for sure in other places. They have been lost to time. History is never recorded as accurately as we want it to be. And now we're very surprised about these surgical tools. Don't get me wrong, this is an impressive find and it is very eye-opening, but I'm putting it down in D tier. It's just not as impressive as these other things. They're surgical tools. It's cool and I love it, but like I said, Pompeii wasn't special. We just have history written wrong. Peru Nazca lines. So between 500 BC and 500 AD, people in ancient Peru drew these huge lines throughout the soil, 800 miles of them in totality. Now, one of the cool things they were doing with these lines were they had these huge shapes: hummingbird, monkey, spider, human, snake, more, and more. Now, the real silly part about this is you can't even see these lines or tell what these shapes are unless you're 1,600 feet in the air. We didn't even discover these shapes and these lines until the 30s when we started flying. So that begs the question, how back then, with no air travel, no drones, no nothing like that, how did they know what they were drawing? And how did they know that they were drawing it so accurate? And there's even theories that a lot of these lines are arranged and some of these lines point to different celestial bodies. And some think of it to be a big astrology book or some type of astrology compass pointing to different constellations, pointing to different things out in the space. Now, whether that's true or not, what's true is these lines are huge and somehow they drew them without being way high in the sky to look down on them. Or were they? I'll let you tell me in the comments whether you think they had some type of technology or method to be that high in the sky looking down on it. But for this tier list, I'm gonna put this in. I'll put it in B tier. I ain't gonna lie. These drawings are just hard to me, man. There's some real good artwork right here. It's tough. I like this. Ancient nuclear warfare. Yes, bro, you heard me right. I know I was talking shit about the conspiracy theorists earlier, but let me go full-blown conspiracy. Please take this with a grain of salt. Do not treat this like the other items on this list. I am not stating this as fact. All right, so I got my conspiracy hat on, and this is something that's been floating online. So back in the 1970s, apparently this Italian archaeologist named David Davenport goes out to Mohenjo-Daro. This is an ancient Indus Valley civilization, and this city was popping somewhere around 2600 to 1900 BC. Thing Mr. Davenport ends up finding out here was there are rocks that have been exposed to unbelievably high temperatures, almost 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. For my metric users, it was about 1,500 degrees Celsius. So wham, that ain't it. He ends up finding these skeletons out here. Skeletons that are fused together. He ends up finding that these skeletons have radiation still in them that are multiple times higher than what they should be. And apparently these skeletons are scattered, showing that the people died in ways that they weren't really doing anything. It seemed like it was sudden. They weren't in any type of combat, nothing like that. So now, I was doing a lot of research on this, and it's hard for me to find credibility. It's hard for me to find things about David Davenport. It's really hard for me to get enough evidence for myself to really believe this and come on here and speak on it as if it was facts to y'all. But if this happens to be true, oh my goodness, have we been here before? Listen, I'm gonna talk about this soon on the channel, but a lot of people have nukes right now. A lot of countries have nukes, and honestly, I have a fear that we might end up blowing the whole world up, blowing everybody up, and then civilization, humans, we're gonna have to start over. Now, if this is true, if this happens to be true about Mohenjo-Daro, have we as a human race been here before? My gosh, bro. S tier with an asterisk though. We don't know if it's true, but if it is, all right, y'all, that's all I have for you today. We had some fun talking about these ancient technologies that shouldn't exist. Now look, I was real serious on the first video, and that's how I like to get when I get into my storytelling bag. And I will do that again, but for the most part, I don't usually act like that. Stick around, have some fun. See you next time. If you have any ideas for any videos, drop them in the comments. Don't just drop the idea, drop a couple topics with it. We'll put that thing on the tier list. Hope you learned something today. I hope I see you again soon. I got some food I cooked earlier and I still got some left. I'm about to reheat it. I hope y'all have a good night. I'm out of here.